I now recognize Mr. Goldberg for his opening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member, members of the committee. An honor to be here with you. You know, the Ranking Member mentioned the timing of this hearing, and I do want to mention a lot of things about timing of this hearing. While we're sitting here today, there are active plots underway to assassinate former United States officials, including some of our colleagues who served with us in the prior administration. While we are sitting here today, we are going to be honoring, remembering, marking the one-year anniversary of Mahsa Amini's murder by the morality police in Iran, the start of an uprising that continues in Iran till today. While we sit here today, the timing of this hearing, we are also monitoring the continued flow of weapons from Iran to Russia to use against the Ukrainian people. And while we sit here today, we've just heard from the Mossad director in Israel, Barnea, who told the world over the last year, Israel has foiled 27 terror plots carried out by Iran, targeting Jews and Israelis throughout the world, with more on the way, including potentially in North America. While we sit here today having this hearing, the timing of this is also the nuclear expansion we are seeing in Iran. We have not, in fact, seen the slowing of Iran's nuclear program the way that the Wall Street Journal headline had tried to characterize. If you look the same day at the Reuters report, you will see a more accurate headline, Mr. Ranking Member, and that is the expansion of Iran's nuclear stockpile at highly enriched uranium levels, including 60% and 20% and low-enriched uranium at 5%. While Iran continues to build a secret new underground facility near Natanz that is supposed to be at 100 meters underground and potentially impenetrable to military action. Cumulatively, what better time than today, as in the news we learn about money flowing to this regime, this same regime that is carrying out all of these illicit activities under United States approval, than right now. So I salute you, Mr. Chairman, for having this hearing. The history is important here. When President Biden took office, against all advice from many experts, he decided to erase maximum pressure. We haven't been having a maximum pressure for 2.5 years against Iran. We've been having maximum deference against Iran for 2.5 years, chasing after the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, trying to get back to a nuclear deal that was already expiring and already dangerous for the United States of America. And despite Iran continuing to ratchet up its nuclear program, racing forward to the nuclear threshold, first to 20% enriched uranium in January of 2021, then to 60% enriched uranium later that year, the production of uranium metal, a key component of nuclear weapons, starting to downgrade their cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, all of that happening under President Biden's maximum deference policy, not under President Trump's campaign of maximum pressure. But that's the history. Let's deal with what's happening in front of us today. There's headlines right now. We're calling this because we believe we have a $6 billion hostage ransom payment on our hands. $6 billion being released for Iran to access coming out of South Korea in exchange for 5 Americans who have been wrongfully, unlawfully detained in Iran. There's also 5 Iranians that we're releasing as part of this deal. It defies logic to believe that the United States is paying $6 billion for 5 people. It would be a historic hostage ransom payment. It would mark a huge cost for all Americans who travel and live abroad. And you think you have problems in Iran coming forward after this payment? If you're Evan Gershkovich sitting in a Russian prison today, the price on your head just went way up. If you're traveling to China or living in China with an espionage act that says that the Chinese can pick up an American now and accuse them of espionage, there's a price on your head too. No, Mr. Chairman, let me tell you what's happening. If you go through the record starting in May of this year, when a senior NSC official, Brett McGurk, traveled to Oman secretly without disclosing to the public and passed messages through the Sultan of Oman, who then carried them on a trip to Tehran and said to the supreme leader in Tehran, the Americans want a deal. They are willing to pay a lot of money, release all your money from various accounts around the world, let your oil flow to historic record highs to China, and for all of that, they just ask you not to cross that weapons-grade uranium threshold. You can keep going forward with all other parts of your program towards the nuclear threshold, just don't produce 90%. This is not a $6 billion deal. Stop with the headlines on $6 billion. This could be at least a $50 billion deal or more. We've already seen a waiver come up to Congress for $10 billion to move from Iraq to Oman. $6 billion now from South Korea to Qatar. $7 billion that supposedly is going to get swapped for Iranian special drawing rights of the IMF for fiat currency, and $25 billion of more for oil profits now going to China, not enforced. All in violation of INARA, all in defiance of transparency to the American people. I hope to answer all your questions here. Thank you for having us, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you much. I now recognize Ms. Slavin for her opening statement.